Changing Work Show, where we have Roxana and myself, Veronica, but we have special guests today, Miss Joanna Tivig. Hopefully I said that right, from NewGenP. And today's topic, really excited about it. Those of you are watching live or the replay, don't forget we have the YouTube channel, Game Changing Work. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notify bell. But it is all about product agility today. Mm-hmm. Woo! Exciting stuff.
I'm not going to leave it there because it covers Joanna, so no. But I'm just putting it here for people who are watching us right now so that they know what we're going to talk about today. So we're super excited that we have Joanna on the show because it helps us be agile. And it helps me understand more about Agile on behalf of all people out there who want to know more about it and are not in it.
Yeah, and we're all about the people side, but it's connecting the people side to the processes that are happening out there today, process practices, right? And so in Agile, it's been fun ride with Roxana because she takes a non-agile perspective about some of the conversations where we know a lot of people out there today, when they think about agile, they think about the tangible aspect, the process, the frameworks, and there's a lot more to it because people drive those practices and processes, or the mindset of how you think of things. Now I know, Joanna, I'm preaching to the choir of somebody that is a product-driven thinker. Is mindset is huge when it comes to product, right. Human behavior, human design thinking, like all of these things are centered around discipline. However, right. A lot of organizations out there that are trying to achieve business agility and they talk about customer centricity, having the product discipline in general, and this is all inclusive when I say that, and that's kind of where what leads into the conversation of product agility, is why this matters. Mm-hmm. And so that's a great segue in. Why product agility?
Yes, and that's exactly what we thought about. Like not only what is business agility, but why business agility matters. And when we talk about business agility, you see in these organizations they come up with these concepts and they float it out there, and not necessarily people understanding what they are. So business agility was such concept. And me working in these organizations where you can see these concepts floating around, then you have these people in the background working and they don't understand what it is. So we basically responded to the question why. We wanted to kind of unravel what business agility is. And we realized that when it comes to business agility, you want to have organization agility. So you want to have the entire organization, business or not, because then what about the not-for-profit organizations? What about the government organizations? Like, you really need to think about broader than that. And when it comes to organization, you want to understand, again, what does agility mean to me? Then it's about people agility, like you said. It's not just processes and tools, but it's people agility. And then we thought about, what about product agility? What about the concept and the life cycle of that product? What does that mean from an agility perspective? Do you want to have these products around the concept of agility, not only from an execution perspective, but from a maintenance perspective as well, because you have a prod ops component. So once the product is in the hands of the customers, do you stop agility there? Or you continue to incorporate that feedback, you continue to enhance it, and you continue to make sure that it speaks to the customer. So that's why we wanted to unravel the product agility, link to the business agility, and understand the entire environment around product, people, processes, tools, different techniques that you want to do from an execution perspective. But it all revolves to that outcome. Because at the end of the day, as organizations, and look at us here, we are business owners. We're creating these products and services, and we want to have that agility around it, because otherwise we will not survive.
Yeah. And I love where you're going with when it comes to outcome driven. Now, we know a lot of are starting to move in that direction more. It's not an overnight, because when you're working from projects and out, it's not easy to have that quick change. You might have strategic conversation, which has probably always existed at a higher level, but there's been a huge disconnect between the teaming part of it, right? And then connecting it back up. And outcomes, we know from coaching or even life coaching, right? We always have been learned about coaching in general is that we start with getting clarity about an outcome. And how wonderful is that? Connecting the dots, right? And we're going to find out that you're a strategist as I'm saying this, wink, wink, is that it matters when it comes to product agility, because all of these things are connected to outcome-based focused.
Yeah, and
in many ways.
It's hard, very hard for people to understand that value in the outcome, because we are very rational people and logical. So we kind of tend to, we need quantifiers. We need to see, we need to touch something. So sometimes when you talk about value, it's not about the tangible. Sometimes value comes from the intangibles. So this is another thing that organizations are struggling with, defining that value, figuring out what that output plus value is, and not just output and cut it there.
Yeah,
I totally agree with that. I mean, and I can tell you from my non-agile perspective, let's put it this way, and I've seen it in take learning and development, for example, all of those programs, the training, the coaching, all of the development and transformation programs that are not connected to a clear outcome. And this is why we see a lot of people frustrated that, I sent my leadership team to this leadership program and nothing happened. Well, first of all, nothing happened because I expected results right away. And as you say, for intangible, it takes time, right? It's not going to happen tomorrow. You can't expect that you're going to be fit tomorrow after you went to the gym one day today. So that is going to take time. And second, what did you send them there for? What was the outcome? And how was that connected to their outcome, to your outcome, to the business outcome? Like we're talking about a lot of stuff here that if you don't think about it before, then you've actually spent a lot of time and money and energy on something that doesn't give you the results and only brings you more frustration. So I love your holistic approach.
And that ties in the human behavior, right? As we probably segue in on that people side, because product is really centered around understanding your customers and their behaviors and their needs and wants, right? Because that's what keeps you in business, is people buying your services or your products, and you have to learn, right? The first thing that you might put out there might not be the winner. Right. Or how about if something changes out in the market, which we know has happened in the last year and a half, right? A lot of changes. And so you have to pivot and you have to adapt. And that is when you have to figure out, what is our outcomes? Do our outcomes align to what's actually happening? Do we need to change? And then all your actions and behaviors around it. Product is centered around this type of thinking. Or I should say, good product agility is centered around this. And that's what you're about. Or what you are helping champion out there. Let me say that better.
Yes, and that's how we connected the product with people, through the idea of an ownership as well. Yeah. So what is that ownership? Because you need to kind of feel the product that you are developing. You need to care about it. You need to actually, nourish it. so it thrives, like everything that we do, we need to put our soul into it, and then you can see how it flourishes. So that was the idea that we created, Peter and I created, around ownership, and having that ownership connected between the product and the actual people working on that product, to your point. And it's a change in mindset. It's a complete change in mindset for all of us to work for these big organizations and feel that we have that ownership, that we have the accountability, although it's not our company, it's not our product. So we don't have that intimate connection with that product, but we have to feel it, work as entrepreneurs.
The pride of ownership. And I love where you're going with this, because this is what we know, purpose-driven. It is, connection starts to happen, right? As a company, what is your purpose? What is your mission? What is the identity as a company? And as you have a group of people and you're building products and services, you're connected because you actually believe in what you're building.
Right.
So
and if they want to read about the 5 P's of ownership, they can find it in our book.
No, show it again.
Well,
I want to create a caption.
Yeah, tell us what the 5 P's are. Let's just talk about it right now. You opened up the window, and I love it.
Pride. One of them is pride, that you talked about. So pride is very important. So having that pride of ownership. So what it means is that when I actually own, it makes me proud. Like, think about, I don't know, anything that you own around you. Do you own a house? Do you own a car? You feel like you want to show it to your friends. You feel like you want to showcase it around, and that's the thing. And with that pride comes the promotion as well, right? So you want to promote it. You feel that you want to do a case around it, to do a campaign around it, right? So then it comes with having the accountability and the power over it. So making sure that you do that. So those are things that, and I'll let you read about the others, but again, these are things that you want to revolve around when it comes to the idea of ownership. I don't want to disclose everything because I want people to read.
Oh, I love it. Now, those of you that are watching right now or the replay, if you have any questions or comments, drop them in, because we'd like to hear anything about product agility or some of the things that we're bringing up right now. So definitely, either live or replay, get in those comments. I see 3 people on YouTube watching right now. So awesome. Hey, guys. Hello. Or gals. So let's dive into some of kind of what that looks like as we've been talking about it. Now, I know on the people side of impact energy and how people want to contribute in product agility could be quite different. Now, on the show that we've always shared with Roxana and I, we have the exact same impact energy. The way that we want to contribute towards an outcome is very similar on our energy level. Now, we might approach it a little bit differently, because her and I are very different when it comes to our personality and behaviors, but our impact energy is identical. Now, we done yours, which was kind of fun. And are you guys ready to maybe dive into that? What do you guys think?
Yes, let's do that.
Let's do that. Okay, I'm gonna bring it up. And thanks, Joanna, for taking this, because it was pretty last minute too. But hey, that is one of the joys of working with game changers sometimes. So
so just full disclosure, so that everybody knows, the last question asks you if you've done this fast without thinking. And I responded, I strongly agree, because I just went through it, right? So that's not with too much thinking. So that's the result.
Okay, that is awesome, because that is what the GC index assessment, this is what it measures. It measures the natural energy that you put into things and how you naturally contribute, right? Mm-hmm. So as you can see, there are 5 dimensions here, and it all started from game changers, because initially these were the people in organizations that the executive leaders didn't know what to do with. I mean, these were good people. They were talented. They were working well and bringing value, but they weren't necessarily following rules and regulations and everything. Like, they wanted to change, to make things differently. And so the leadership wasn't quite sure, how are we going to handle these people? Because we want to keep them because they have talent, obviously, but we don't like the fact that they don't fit the mold, and they don't seem to want to fit the mold either. So what do we do about that? So this is how the whole thing was created. So they started from game changers, whose natural inclination is going to be that they want to make things in a completely new and different way, something that hasn't been done before. So they're all for that creative energy that can put you into that gear of, let's try something completely new.
And imagine all the transformations and desire to be business agility, how important that is today, right?
Right.
Exactly. So, and that comes with the good and the bad, obviously, because that can be awesome and that can be also scary. And we will see who especially that may be scary too. So, and then we have the strategists who are able to project and make plans and prioritize. So for instance, when, and they can see the patterns of market, the market situation, the market patterns, what's going on, what's going on right now, what's going to last, what's not going to last, what we can try that makes sense. So when you have a game changer and a strategist working together, that might be an amazing teaming, because the strategists are the ones that will get what game changers are all about, and they will understand the idea and they can make sense of it from a business perspective. And they will ask those questions, because game changers, they come up with ideas so fast and they're so energized by them, and they're like, yeah, we need to do it now because it's awesome and it will help us a lot. And then you have the strategist asking, but do we have the resources? Is it the right time? Do we have the people? Is it where the trends are going? So, and then they really help give that idea life when the timing is right for it. Because you might have the best idea in the world, and if it's not the best time to put it out there, it's just gonna go and float in nowhere's land.
Right.
And product agility, just to kind of tie it to our topic, because this is all related, folks. We didn't just like throw this in for nothing, is that in order to be agile, you have to also be very strategic and deliberate on the decisions you make. And like, do I pivot? Do I move forward? So we talked about the people that might have the big ideas and really want to push the edge and are the risk takers, which is needed when it's needed. But the strategists are going to make sense and going, do we really need this right now?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Mm-hmm. And then you have
that aspect of implementers as well. I've seen so many great ideas, so many people that have the strategic view, that they have the great ideas out there, but when it comes to execution and actually getting a product over the line, or just showing that result out there, it's not happening.
It's not happening. Yeah.
And that's probably an area you wouldn't hire myself or Roxana to do.
But here's the thing.
We're not implementers.
We're not implementers.
I can see in your profile.
Exactly. But here's the trick, though.
I think
and we were talking about accountability and pride. When you're talking to a game changer, they're gonna be able to implement their ideas, because that's what's gonna keep them energized and happy to do it. Where they are not great at implementing is if they don't adopt the idea, if they're not the ones who generate it, or if they don't like the idea, if they don't adopt the idea in the first place, it doesn't speak to their heart. So that's when it's gonna be, okay, I'm gonna do it because I have to do it. Yeah, but I'm not gonna find any energy to do it.
And the other P is the passion.
See,
no passion in that. We will have no passion. So I don't know if it was you or the other guest where I messed up on the form. I think it was you. And it's because I wasn't connected to that. It was just something I needed to do. And I was not polishing at all. I didn't care about the result. I really didn't. I just wanted it over with. And that's just like a little baby tiny example. But when you think about product agility and you're aligning the right people for the right things, we obviously want to make great products and services that are going to delight our customers or help people out there, right? And really drive those needs. Imagine if you have someone like myself without the other half, right? The checks and balances, the blind spots, as we talk about those. You're imbalanced is my point.
Right. Exactly.
Right. And it's all going back to that effectiveness and efficiency discussion that we keep having. It's great to have that process that works very well, but is it effective? Is it the right thing? If it's not the right thing, you can continue to do it and you see no results at the end. You don't see any changes coming out. So that's what you need to think about.
Ooh, I like this. Effective outcomes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And that ties in so nicely with leadership, because leadership is all about, doing the right thing. Are we doing the right thing? It's not just the management perspective of doing things right.
Right.
But the things that we're doing right, are we doing the right things in the first place? I mean, that's an important conversation to have. And because, Veronica, you mentioned polishing, the polishers will be those people who can take a product or a service that you already have and really develop it further. They're all about improvement, continuous improvement, quality. That's important when you, especially for feedback. They care about feedback, and they will take that feedback and they will turn, what I love to say without, advertising for anyone, is like they can turn a Ford into a Rolls Royce. Basically, you have a product or a service that you already developed, but they will be able to take it top notch, to make it top notch. These are the polishers, all about the quality, all about improvement. And they have that patience and that drive for detail, paying attention to all of those details and really working with everything they have to improve things. And then the playmakers are the ones who are able to help all of these people work well together. And it's not just that they're not going to look at pleasing everybody, but they want to have an environment where things are balanced and they can create those collaborative cultures that we need so that we can be innovative and creative and adaptable and flexible and all of those nice things, right? And they will be the ones who are able to also spot a potential conflict and help teams work it through. And
because they're energized by the people dynamics.
Exactly. And they can see talent, and they can see when you're putting together teams of people working on projects, they are able to see who's best for that particular thing. They naturally have an inclination towards that. So that is the general description. And now looking at the profiles, your profile, clearly a very powerful strategist and implementer. And then Veronica and mine are into the game-changing strategist side. And this is probably, so our common language here, looking at the profiles, will be the strategists. But because you also have quite a higher number in game-changing, you have some energy for game-changing inclinations, let's say. So you get us.
Yeah, your tolerance level of the ideas and the things that we throw your way, so to speak.
Yes.
You would have a higher tolerant level. So like if your profile was probably a 3 grain, you would get highly irritable with our unpredictable nature. You'll be like, hey, focus on this. I don't have time, especially with your implementer. You wouldn't have that patience for us. And it's not again, it's not personality behavior. It's just you don't want to put your energy into it. It's like, wait a minute, you're exhausting me. What's the one idea you want to talk about right now?
Right.
Because you're a higher one at 5, you have more patience to hear us out.
Yeah. So let me ask you this, Joanna. What did you think about when you're looking at this and after these explanations, what do you think about your profile? Does it resonate?
I think I expected more of that game changer because my husband will probably be shocked by this because I like change so much. So I think that was kind of a surprise for me. And the surprise was also on the implementer. And I think over the years, I kind of transitioned and my relationship with Peter on NewGenP, and when we co-founded the NewGenP and we started putting together and having our ideas on paper, he kind of, I was always, talking and just throwing things on the wall and loving to strategize and everything. And he's the type of a doer, an executor, and just getting things done. So, getting those ideas and putting them into action. And I think that over the years working with him, I learned more to be on that implementer and thinking more of, okay, we need to get something out. And the idea of minimum viable product is basically driving us, right? So get that idea into a concept, test it out with your customers, and then improve from there, as we talked about continuous improvement. And that way you eliminate so much waste. So not just throwing things out there and they never stick, but also seeing that what the reality will actually tell you, that it's an idea that works or it's a concept that resonates with people. So I think I'm not as surprised about the implementer, but I'm a little bit surprised about the game changer. So the other, I would get it, like I was surprised that we have the same scores for the Playmaker, which again, it fits into that discussion that you had and what you said, Roxana. Like I really like to work in an environment at this point in my life where you kind of, you have that understanding. It's an environment of professionals. We all work to achieve something and we go together. It's a team environment. So no more of those, crazy assignments where you don't have, people that you like to work with.
Yeah. No, that makes total sense. And what I can say on the implementer side, for instance, is that implementers will look at the reality and they will look at the tried and tested. They will look for that and see, okay, what's been working, what's not been working. A game changer doesn't care about that. A game changer comes up like, I need to do this and I need to do this right now. I don't care that we never did this. I don't care that we had no data to start this from. I know it's a brilliant idea. I know this will bring a lot of benefits, and they start from there. So that's their starting point. And I think a lot of these, when you look at this, it's also, as you said, something that's been nurtured. So we look at nurture and nature, right? So if that implementer score is now higher because it's also been nurtured, it's good. But typically you will get people who talk about reality and people who talk about possibilities. Right. So it's not that you can't deal with change and you don't want change. It's how you manage it, right? From which perspective? Is it from the perspective of possibilities, or is it from let's change the reality?
But you said, and I'll repeat because I think this is important. getting back to why you're 5 game changers, you said you love change.
Mm-hmm.
And where this lies, if you probably were lower, you might not necessarily say that. You might have to come around a little more. You might be more traditional thinking. And change is not that. So when you said, I love change and I'm surprised, what is not surprising to me when you're all about product agility and wanting to really look at, make sense of it and drive and doing all these things and how you paired with, it was driven from that aspect of game changer because you love change.
Right.
But you love change in a strategic way.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what it is, right? So in that strategic way, because I want to also think, right, on how that change will actually impact anything that we're doing. So that's what I said, in terms of that idea of create minimum and then go from there. Just show something that we can do. And I've been obsessed, during my last years of my career to actually put something out there and not just talk about it. So it's great that we have a lot of leaders that talk, but you do need to have people that also take it to the next level and make it, like a concrete thing, like a song.
And that's where your energy, when we talk about impact energy, you have the energy for change, but you have really great energy around, if we talk about and connecting the dots of product agility, is bringing really good ideas to life out there in the market that are actually going to do something.
Right.
I think that's huge.
That's to me agility. Exactly. That's to me figuring out that path, the shortest path that you can have in order to show people something and to give it to your customers, because that's the most important thing. Test it out there.
Now, if we're connecting the dots of product agility, right, and what in your book and what you have been teaching with people, let's kind of bring it all together. And what are you thinking right now when it comes to product agility and what you've learned so far of what you're looking at with people's energies on how they want to drive towards an outcome?
Yeah, I mean, when it comes, it's very like in organizations right now, what we are seeing, it's that mindset is pretty immature. So we really need to take, and you probably said it at the beginning, and I like that. You have a project mindset. In organizations right now, everything revolves around the project, and that's the temporary endeavor. Everybody thinks temporary. Everybody thinks, okay, we're gonna start something, we're gonna finish it here, and then we're gonna move on. So when we think about product agility, and this is again looking at that bigger picture, what is that bigger picture? Because it doesn't start with the project. Products start before the project starts. The product starts with that idea. So, maybe out of this discussion here, we get an idea to do something, to develop a product, right? So we are just discussing right now, and we have those ideas floating around, and that's basically coming together, So you kind of have that growing, and then you associate that with the idea of value. So the moment you have that idea, you have to think about value. What value are we trying to put out there for our potential users, our potential customers, donors, I don't know, like volunteers, whoever our customer is, before we even think about a solution? Because sometimes we just go into solutioning mode. We want to understand that, but there is a bigger part there around value and the problem we're trying to solve for our customers. That need, that will generate the value. So that starts before the project. And you want to validate that with your customers. So you want to go through that market validation. Maybe in there you can put together a small project to do a proof of concept or prototype or something like that. But the actual project from an implementation perspective starts even after that. for some organizations. You prove that, your concept works and everything, but then you actually start implementing once you prove that. And that's just the execution. And now you're wondering, okay, I executed, I deliver something, I have it in the hands of the customers. So what happens then? I've seen so many projects thrown out there, to the customer and over the fence to operations, and then we forget completely about them. We don't go back to the value that we were planning to generate. So when we thought about that need that we're addressing for the customer, we have to look at that all the time. Like now that product is in the hands of the customers. Is it generating the value that we discussed about at the beginning when we just had this idea floating around? And that value will change over time, but it's still, something that you want to go back and forth to validate. And that's the whole idea for us in terms of, finding that product agility throughout the product life cycle and changing the mindset of people, that is not just one piece of the puzzle which sits in the middle of the product life cycle, like the project life cycle. It's a bigger picture. And if you don't exercise agility at that level, and you only think about execution, which Agile does, Agile executes. Okay, it's very good to your point. It has processes, it has guidelines, it has all this, you can use tools, but it's just that one component in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
Everything around it, from that ecosystem perspective for the entire product life cycle, it needs to be clearly ironed out and understand by everybody why it's happening. To give you an example, so I have a course at the University of Toronto, and I teach Agile concept, Agile essentials, Agile leadership and transformation. One question that I get when we talk about customer journey maps, for example, is, oh, why do I need to care about customer journey maps? This is something that marketing should do. And now you realize that you have a bigger picture, even as a project manager. It's not just, looking inside that cocoon. It's thinking, okay, I need to understand my customer. I need to understand the journey that my customer and the interactions my customers will have with my products, because that's how I will be successful. That's why I will be able to deliver that value. And that's why project managers need to learn about customer journey maps. They need to learn about who the customer is. They need to know about value delivery and value proposition. And sometimes, like, we do value proposition canvas there, and you really start connecting the dots and you say, oh, okay, so I have all these pains here for my customer. That means I need to resolve them here with my product. Now I see it. Now I can connect the two, because then I have value. And then if I have value, customers will buy the value. They are willing to pay for value. As we know, we all appreciate value. We pay the price. And that means income for the organization, growth. So I help organizations grow. And that's, connecting higher to the strategy. So it's amazing how everything comes together the moment you understand all those things. And that's why we think like this is foundational to have that to the product life cycle.
I mentioned earlier was someone that, is doing scaled OKRs and really connecting from the strategy labor to the execution. And when we go back to outcomes, typically in life coaching, this is the same conversation I had with him. We want to create achievable outcomes, but in that process, when we're working with someone, we start to check ecology, right? We check with the systems around us. Ooh, what's that? And so I love where you're going, because if we shift from output, which is, or a lot of the symptoms that you're describing is because I'm output driven, I'm only thinking about what I have to do. It's almost like when you think of the line system, when they started developing, remember McDonald's a long time ago when they created a system and you only did one particular job there, and then one person would do the other job, right? Just like a manufacturer line. Well, what we're learning is that that might work in a manufacturing line in some cases, but in organizations, we're not manufacturing lines.
Right.
And we really need to think of more of a system, because we all work on systems of processes, systems of technology, and systems of people. And the one thing that we can start to connect the dots with is if we move more towards outcome-driven practices that are measurable, to your point, right? Because how do we know unless we can measure it?
Right.
Tangible and intangible, everything can be measured. And really look at things holistically. And so it's taking the quadrants of everything and looking at how everything is connected together. Mm-hmm. Now, if we knew our outcomes, and let's get back to product agility. If we know our outcomes and then we start to look at things in that perspective, imagine how much that would change and much easier when we start thinking about energies with people and the impact towards these outcomes, and start realizing where our blind spots are. So for example, you have somebody that is in the execution working on a project, and you want to teach them about customer journey maps and everything, but they probably may not even be a system thinker, and their energy might be low in strategy. They might be a high implementer, for example. And so that's a blind spot. And you start to realize it's not just a skill I need to teach them, but they also don't want to put their energy into it. So what do we do with that?
Right. Well, I mean, that's a great question. I mean, how do we motivate people? It's going back to that, feeling comfortable with what you're doing, and also having that mentality that whatever you're creating, having that passion, that soul, into what you're doing. And that's why you need to have ownership. Otherwise you don't feel it, and that's something, sometimes you wonder, like I work with people, and sometimes you say, oh, like if we're missing that motivation, if we're missing the passion, what's the point? I think organizations have realized that if you don't have the buy-in of people inside the organization, it's not happening. Like gone are the days when you had the strategy developed at the highest level of the organization. The top executive tier would go away on a 3-day journey to define the strategy. Then they would come back, they would communicate to everybody follows. Oh, that's so easy to say. But because I don't have any stake into it, I'm not a stakeholder of that strategy. I'm not feeling it. I don't know. It doesn't resonate with me. I wasn't asked for input. How is that something that I would like to do? How do you motivate me to feel something about that strategy?
And that worked in the age before Internet of Things and digital. But now things are moving so quickly, that approach is outdated. It doesn't work. And I think that proved it this last year.
Exactly.
It has, because there's a lot of, the organizations that really thrive right now are those organizations who already knew.
That have adapted. But what helped them adapt is because they knew their people. They knew what they can count on from their teams and from their people. It was all about team leadership and who can take the helm depending on what we need to do and how we need to do it. Because if we look at this, and this helps a lot of managers and leaders in organizations, if we look at this profile right here, and we were the three of us on a team together, this tells you what drives each of us, and how you can also, as a leader, how you can motivate me, or how you can help me feel motivated, because we're looking at intrinsic motivation. It's not, a leader can't motivate you externally forever. There are incentives that they can give, but motivation is, first of all, intrinsic. So if you look at this,
you will know as a leader, oh, what motivates Veronica or Roxana or Joanna? Oh, this. If I ask them to do this, if I ask them the questions about these things, they will feel like they contribute and they will feel they matter. At the end of the day, that's what we want to feel, so that it helps us feel motivated. So just to look at this snapshot and you will know how to use your each of your team members so that you really create that engagement and motivation towards that brings you to the outcome. Because otherwise you might get there later, you might never get there.
And
right, it's not just about games, because that's the other thing, I find that some organizations, they say, oh, can we play a game just to increase motivation? And
that's temporary.
yeah, that's temporary.
It's a temporary fix. And I think one thing, we all probably said it, but this is just me circling back, is step one is clarity. If there's no clarity, motivation and all these things that we do don't really mean anything. And so it's really getting clarity. So when you talk about the organizations that did well last year, it's probably because they had clarity. And then when they had clarity, they were able to round the people up. Because if you round people up and you don't have clarity, what happens? Lord of the Flies.
Right.
They were highly motivated kids out there in the island, but guess what? Did it really serve any tangible purpose?
and clarity is part of that agility as well.
Yeah.
So you said it, right? It gets added to what agility is.
And so
making it clear.
So first step one is getting clear on the outcomes that you are trying to achieve. Once you have that clarity, then you can assess your current state. What do we have, right? Where are we? Do we have the right people? Do we have the right skills? Are we set up to even do something? The ones that actually had that clarity and they were able to assess their environment, again, check your ecology, right? We learned that in life coaching with one individual, that they checked their ecology. And so going back to your product agility, connecting this is making sure that things are lining up. Now, if they don't line up, that's where, Joanna, I'd like, hey, let's get a strategist in here and figure out what kind of strategy together so we are lined up, right? And then we can implement that plan so we can have a good pivot. Things that were able to do this quickly, right, were the ones that came out of it better than others versus the ones out of sheer luck. Let's just put them aside. I'm talking about the ones that they had clarity, they were able to assess quickly, they were able to create a strategy and act on it.
Right. And that's also the idea of the agility in a strategy, how flexible you make it. Because, strategy is such a loaded word. And I think a lot of people have fatigue when they hear strategy. They think about these complex things that takes months and months to develop and then years and years to implement. And that's the other thing, how do we make those strategies appealing, to actually feel that they are light, that they are flexible, that as we said here, the more you find out about your customers and what they want, and if those expectations change, you can change your strategy, and that's okay. You don't have to go through 15 levels of approvals.
That's such a strategy implementer. What do you think, Roxana? You just reduced complexity
about that.
Yeah,
exactly. That's so simple now and easy to grasp, actually.
Yeah, because the fact, if you were just like, if you had a low implementer, right? I'm putting context to this in product agility. You would have probably let the swirling of ideas and strategy thinking that tends to happen sometimes in room. There's no decision being made, and there's no like, hey, how can we get this out the door in the most simplest and streamlined way to get the results that we need, right? Because think about, like, I was giving an example of last year of the companies that needed to act quickly. What you just said, your strategist implementer would have been somebody I wanted in that room because you would have made sure that happened. And then I would have loved probably a playmaker to work through all the personalities.
Right.
Because that's what needed. Like, it's not just, you're right about the strategy, it's loaded. But I love it coming from someone like you, knowing where your energy is. you didn't surprise me that that's what you said. Because you'll be like, oh my God, why are we overcomplicating this?
And that's the thing. I think I resonate with a lot of people who, how many times we were in meetings where we were delivering something, and because it was aligned to the strategy overall, we needed to do it, but not necessarily because it was the right thing. And then when you actually implement it out there, it doesn't resonate with you. It doesn't resonate with your customers. You start that work over again, because that strategy needs to change first. Why not, as you see things that are changing at the working level, then that will generate changing your strategy. So basically it's like a cycle. It doesn't have to be, one driving the other, like you have to have a strategy that drives the work. No, sometimes the work drives the strategy. That's fine, and it changes it.
Exactly. And it goes back to where you started the whole conversation, from having that holistic perspective, customer, product, service, outcome, everything. And you look at everything and you start from there. You build from there, actually, because it's not just a one-way street, right? So, and I like it because what you just said right now about, okay, we can get feedback and see what we need to change, and we can change the strategy. That's so important for whenever we talk about flexibility, for our ability to adapt to whatever is going on. Because think about it, nobody really has the recipe, the clear recipe of what they need to do exactly, what strategy exactly they need to have to make things happen, to be successful in this environment particularly. So having that mindset that, hey, strategy is not a fixed thing. It can be changed, and it has to be changed depending on the feedback that we're getting. And the feedback that we're getting comes from different places. So
and look at the examples. Look at examples. Look at Sears, for example. We have these big chains, like a retail store. They got the writing on the wall from the beginning that customers needed something else. But they had a strategy at the top and they wanted so blindly to follow. But the customers were saying something else. We don't need this. It was so hard to change that layer of strategy that they had, because they kind of, even in the last years of Sears, they got together for months and months and they worked on that plan, and they were so happy with it, everybody at the executive level. But the customer said, no, we don't like it.
And how long did they spend on doing that by the time they actually got that answer?
Right.
And so if we take the words product, agility, most people, when they probably look at agility, you have two houses. The word agility itself, and somebody that doesn't know anything about agile is probably where your brain is going, Roxana. And then you have the people from the agile world that are totally attaching it to a framework and process. And agility in this sense, in my opinion, is what Roxana is thinking. It's the ability to adapt quickly, the total Webster Dictionary term. And to be able to do that, you have to use all your resources. And I say resources meaning looking at your system of people, the processes, the things that you have, everything around that. Think of an athlete that is agile. Do you think he doesn't think about the terrain, right? Doesn't think about the pole if he's a polar, or the tools that they're using within that sport. So that is what I mean by your resources. And when somebody is a very agile athlete, that's what they say, right? They're really using their smarts, their heart,
right,
in the whole process of doing it, because product is about as well. You talked about that. Believing, taking ownership. The greatest athletes out there, they are the product, right? They are the product. And if they didn't believe and they didn't have that passion towards what they do, you wouldn't get the results they have. So our challenge out there in organization and employees is, when we talk about product agility, is, how do we get the mindset, right? The heart and the process all together. working in concert. That's product agility to me.
Yes, you nailed it. And I like this thing about the mind, the heart, and the technique, because that's exactly what it is. You need to have all these three things in order to be able to be a successful, to build a successful product, and to actually get it there to generate that value that we keep talking about. Because to me, it's like it's great. You do it fast. It's not about the speed. It's about, what value are you generating?
Yeah, the speed comes after you actually have clear about the value, right? It's a cart before the
Exactly.
horse. It's like, if we kept on using the athlete analogy, yeah, they're a runner's just only thinking about speed. No, they're thinking about what actually they're trying to achieve, which is a gold medal. Or like they need to be able to get to the Olympic trials, right? There's something bigger than just fast.
Right.
And they have a bigger picture about where they're going. Now I know
And
we're
the adaptability, because if you think about it, yeah.
And sustainability, because I think this is what we're talking about. You want something that's sustainable. You don't want to be, you can definitely win a gold medal, and then if you weren't ready to win it, you won't win it again. So what does that say about your success? Is it sustainable? Is it long term? Are you prepared for a marathon or for a sprint?
Those are the recurring gold medalists, right? That come back and they keep winning. Or the people that make Hall of Fame, right? In soccer, football, or sports. It's not a one-time trip pony, that they only did it once. Now, I know we have to wrap up our show.
We have to.
So let's talk
about
what
you gave me a great idea. I'll put something together around this, because now talking about ideas, like I'm just writing it, down.
You came to the right place.
Oh. Yeah. So that's what happens when you have game changers and strategists working together.
Love it. So what's going on in the world?
So in the world, we have Joanna's course that we need to talk about.
Yep.
Yes. So this is a course we are offering for University of Toronto. It starts on April 19th, and it's called Product Management and Ownership Strategies for Value Delivery. So focusing on that value again. Most of these ideas that we shared here are embedded in the course. But on top of that, it's also a very applied course. So it has lots of practice exercises. We do it like it's a synchronous course. So we do it online, but basically like we are there as instructors with the students. And we discuss case studies, and we go through a lot of examples for people to actually connect those concepts to the real life. So it's very entertaining. So this is something we are offering.
So if I heard you correctly, it's an online course, because we have a US based audience that watches the show. So they can come as well. Now here's a bonus. The course is probably offered in Canadian dollars, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
At a very good price.
So that means US-based people, the conversion rate's in your favor.
Yes.
Yeah. When is it? When does it start, Joanna?
It starts on the 19th. It's on the University of Toronto website, utoronto.ca. And then they can actually search for the product management and ownership, or they can search for my name, Joanna Tivig, and they can see that course there that I'm offering, or Peter Monkhouse. Basically, it's a 4 half days course. So we do Monday, Tuesday on the 19th, 20th, and then we do 26th and 27th the next week, because we want that gap so people can actually digest and process the information. Yeah.
We're going to put the link in the comments, the link for people to. So if you're watching it, whenever you're watching, just check the link in the comments and see what the course is all about and register.
And in YouTube, if you look in the description of the YouTube, we will have Joanna's link there as well. So we always say subscribe to the YouTube channel. Most of that information is easier to access. If you're watching this on the other social platforms, things get kind of lost, folks. So go over to YouTube, It will be in the description, easy to find.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about the webinar coming up on April 21st as well on Agile Teaming Strategies at 3 p.m. Eastern Time.
So disclaimer, we had to change the date again because I had training. And sometimes we all work and we have things to do. So this is the last time. Lessons learned. I'm sharing my learning because we're all transparent. I will not book webinars unless they are about 2 weeks in advance of the date, because what do we learn in Agile? Things change, right? So was I being very agile about creating my webinar so far in advance? No.
You were agile in adapting. So I think we're fine.
But we learn and we don't repeat. So I'm learning and I will not repeat. So it is April 21st. What we're going to do is talk about Agile teaming strategies. Now, we alluded to some of it today. And so we'll continue talking about the steps to some of those teaming strategies that are going to help you get to those results that you need. So part of the steps are strategies within themselves. So sign up. The link is there. The link will be in the description and also in the comments. And hopefully you guys can check it out. If you register and you can't come to the live, we'll have Q&A. A replay will be available to you if you register.
Okay, awesome. So that's it for today. Thank you for joining us, Joanna. That was an awesome conversation.
Thank you
so much.
Thank you for having me.
Have a good one.
You got to come back.
Bye.
All right. Bye.